So thank you everybody for showing up today. Some of you may be painting along and some of you might just watch. I'm really excited to share some of my techniques and my materials, do a quick sketch for you and share some of my journaling pages. I started doing quick sketch when actually my first workshop was in Provence. And I had so much equipment and big easels and my chair and my big pads of paper and my ginormous palette. And with each trip to Europe, almost every year I teach with Teresa Gesling, each time we got smaller and smaller down to using sketchbooks and smaller pads of paper, my smaller palette, which you'll see in a minute. And then I found with my pens, I could just capture a scene in a few minutes rather than fussing over it and taking hours. So that's what I'm going to share with you today in this quick sketch demonstration. Let's get to my setup. I have watercolor paper, and I tend to sketch in sketchbooks, but you may not have a sketchbook. And I have found actually that this Fabriano 25% paper is great for sketches because it's a little bit smoother than my 100% cotton paper, which I love for my paintings. But for a quick sketch, it's a little bit rough, and so it gives you a rougher line. Now, I have a lot of sketchbooks. This is a Fabriano sketchbook from my trip to Provence, and it basically uses this paper. It's the smoother paper, and while you may not be able to find it in the US, these are some fun sketches that I did in Provence. There we go. There are other sketchbooks. The Canson sketchbook, here's one. This is a Canson sketchbook, and it actually has pretty nice smooth paper in it. Let me turn it around. I have something in here that's a quick sketch. Sorry, there we go. I'm very happy with the Canson sketchbooks, and they are not very expensive. This one I found at Dick Blick. So feel the paper if you can, and if it's a little bit smoother, that's good. Really rough is a little harder to get those nice smooth lines. And for sure you need 140-pound cold press paper. This is more of a color mixing sketchbook, and I provide my supply lists and tips in my newsletters. So watch for those. And that's my little bit about what kind of sketchbook to get. You can also take paper to FedEx or someplace that bounds or binds your paper into a spiral notebook. And recently I just had somebody who went to FedEx and had it done, and they came with a nice cover. Or sometimes I'll use the cover that's in the back of the pad as my cover because it's really nice and firm. All right, that's my paper. For my pen, I am using a Faber-Castell. There's a small point, a fine point, medium. You can buy them in sets. And the small is actually finer than the fine. Now, it's tricky that way. And I like small lines. So that's the one I'm going to use. Sometimes I'll grab another one because the ink is running out. And so that will be my drawing tool. I will not use a pencil. And the reason I like using continuous contour line drawings with a pen is that you just accept whatever you do. It may not be just right, but it'll be fine as it is. You can use a pencil. Oh, we're at a 99, 101. Wow, I'm excited. If you use a pencil at all, I don't even have a pencil. You use a pencil, it's just to maybe give you a few guidelines as to where your shapes will go. Isn't that funny? Oh, here's one. If I do use a pencil, I put a kneaded eraser on the end. I do not want those lines, those pencil lines to show up. And I always use a mechanical pencil because you get a nice sharp point. A pencil that you sharpened yourself often leaves little fibers. Okay, my palette. This palette runs about $20. I've seen it for $12 in different places. I like it because it has a lid that I can close. And the main reason I like the palette is because I can roll my brush into the paint rather than just get the very tip of it in there. So I like to get into my paint. My paints are dry and they're tube paints. They come from Daniel Smith. And what I do, I fill it up. I fill up the sections. And then when I need to use it again, I just spritz it. Now you'll see that my yellow is really dirty, probably because I was painting fall leaves the other day and I haven't cleaned it out yet. So all I need to do to clean that up is just take a paper towel and I can clean out anything I don't want because it was wet. This is Lunar Earth and this is buff titanium. Two extra colors that I use now and then. Lunar Earth is an awesome color for the stone and the texture of the rocks comes through. It's got some sediment in it. And that's one thing I love about Daniel Smith colors. Many of their colors are taken directly from the earth and then they create their colors with that. So I have so many earth tones from Daniel Smith. I can't fit them all in my palette, but right now the warm colors, and we're using a lot of warm colors, permanent brown, quinacridone gold, lunar earth. I may use some Naples yellow and some orange for peach color. And I can use a little bit of my lunar earth or buff titanium. Now, don't worry about this because if you're on my newsletter list, you'll get that and you can add it to your supplies if you want. All right, what else can I tell you? My brush. The brush is a quill and it's a Dynasty Black Gold 311 quill. Available from the brush guys when they're in stock. So when they're out of stock, just put yourself on the back order list. And usually within a few weeks, you'll get a notice. It's worth waiting for. This one's about $15. It's the 4, and the 0 is maybe $9. This is a standard brush, standard round watercolor brush. It's a 10. And so it's sized differently than the quills. You don't want to take the plastic off. The 10, this brush is fine, but I am so used to painting with these brushes that I'm almost handicapped because I love these brushes so much, the way they hold the paint and the water. So if you have a good round brush, whatever it is, go ahead and grab that. And we are going to draw first. Here's my small. All right, I mentioned if you have a pencil, and this is optional, but you can just decide where your big shape is. Okay, just sort of block that in. And my little shape is back here. That's all I've done with my pencil. that way, you know, you're not going to go off the page or run out of room. Now I'll take my pen and I'll do a continuous line drawing. And I can start from this way and come over, or I can start over here and work my way up. I think I want to start over here. And I look at where this, come on, this relates to this. Now my square may not be exactly the same proportions, I don't care, but this is about a third of the way up. So that gets me started in a good spot. Don't need that right now. And I will work my way up the hill, put my pencil down, and then come up the side of the rocks. I'm looking at the outside shape. I'm not getting involved in all the other things going on. I just want to get the big shape. Here we go. That's starting to work. You know, it may be a little taller than I drew my square at the beginning. It may go a little wider. But if I'm close, that's pretty good. This is not a botanical drawing, you know, or an exact copy. It's more of a quick sketch where I just want to capture the big main shapes. There we go. That works pretty well. I'd like to show you how I draw. I draw the same way whether I'm drawing with a pencil or a pen. I still try to put my pencil down and keep going. That works pretty well. And that's what I'm looking at right here. Rather than pick my pencil up, I'm going to work my way back across. What I'm doing are these kind of bookends that you see. I'll get more involved into that later. There. The main reason I did that was just to come back over. And then I will come down. This comes down further than it does over here. Well, let's come down a little further. And I've got another tower. Now, are my measurements perfect? No, we aren't going for perfect. We're just going for capturing the scene. There we go. This one could get a little taller. Well, if I don't like where it landed, I just draw another line. Okay, now that I've got my main shapes in there, I can erase that pencil line. Now, like I said, this paper is a little smoother than a 100-pound, 140-pound cold press paper that is 100% cotton. Different brands have different surfaces. So you'll find over time what you like. Okay, once you get your main shapes in, then you want to, you know, start to develop it a little further. And what I don't have yet is the base of the hill. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. There's a few sagebrush in there. I like the sagebrush. Bushes, whatever that is. There. Big main shapes. That's what we're going for. And I am going to pull that hilt down because this is in front of that. So always start with the biggest main shape and then work your way down into the other shapes. Now let's see, I see this line. I think they're called book cliffs or strata lines. I'm going to break it up right there and work my way across there. And there's the top edge of this one right along here. I'm starting with the easy shapes first. And the more you look at this, the more you start to see. I think it's really fascinating. Here now we've got the big shadow shapes up in the rock. And so let's start over here. I think this one's fairly easy. It just comes straight down. Now I do quick sketch often as a warm-up for some of my classes, or I have some classes that are just quick sketch. But it's really a great way to relax into your scene and get to know it. We spend so much time trying to see the big picture and get all the little details that if you work your way from simple into a little more complex, you will get to know your subject better. All right. What I'm drawing are the shapes I see in the rocks, and you may see different shapes than I see. Here's that shadow shape. And like I said, sometimes you get it just right, and sometimes it's a little bit off. But we aren't too concerned about that. Here's a big, this is all darker right in here. And then there's light at the top. Now you could just draw this as the big shapes and paint into it and be done. I'm taking you a little bit further to help you see how I get involved in the rocks. And this one's a little harder than I thought, but there we go. There's this crevice coming right down here, and I see a shadow over there. So I'm just trying to break down the general shapes that I see, and I'll show you some examples of this. There. Plus I'm drawing it bigger. This is probably about an 8 by 10. And I think a great size for a quick sketch is 6 by 8. So the bigger you get, the longer it takes to get your details in there, to get your drawing done. So 6 by 8, 7 by 10, something like that is a nice size to work with. And here's a shadow right here. Now this doesn't look like much because you just have a bunch of lines and the shapes may not mean anything, but I've got the general idea for you. And I'm starting to get excited about putting some color on there. Some shapes you won't see until you get started on your painting, and you'll get more involved in it and you can add those shapes. Back on this tower, you see a few light and shadow shapes. Not so involved as one in front. I remember the first time I went through Monument Valley, I was traveling with our college band, and we were going to Phoenix from Utah, and I slept most of the time on the bus. But I woke up and I saw these, and I was just in awe of the dramatic landscape all around us. Okay, it's 20 after, and I think I've got enough information there to start adding some paint. so that it can dry as we go. And I can keep putting layers on there. Now, where's my paper towel? There we go. Now, I like to have paper towels nearby to clean out, clean my brush. Sometimes I'm squeezing water out of it so I don't have too much water. It's just good to have dry paper towels nearby. If your paper towel gets wet, once it's wet, it's not any good. Oh, I have a question. What size is my square? I didn't measure it exactly. About 9. It should be 9 by about 7.5. But I'm a little bit off size. And this one, what is this? 6, about 5 by 6. It's just a random size. I cropped it so that I could see these two. And like I said, I don't care if you get your dimensions just right. Thank you for the question, Elaine. The colors I'm going to use, and before I put color in, I wanted to show you a few Zion or landscapes using my warm colors. It's light and shadow. So I'm going to be showing you how to get that effect. We're going to paint the light first and then come in with the shadows. There's a few different versions. This is actually in Ghost Ranch. It's a Ghost Ranch. You could use just one color for your entire painting, such as permanent brown or burnt sienna, and focus only on values. This is up near Zion, and this was on the drive on the way back from Moab this summer. Uh-oh. Is that not plugged in? There we go. That should keep us from losing power. On my camera, that would be bad. I also have, this is here in Utah, down the road from Park City, between Park City and Ogden. And this is in Zion, and everything is about light and shadow. And then I add a little bit, you could use purple or blue in your shadows, but first we're going to get the light on here. One thing I do want to show you before I go too far is working with values. And I think what I'll do is take you from dark. So that's thick paint. Very little water. There we go. It's almost like cream, and we probably won't get creamy today. We may have a few dark shapes in there, but if you paint everything creamy, your painting goes very flat, okay, and dark and heavy. So we want to stay more in the milk or coffee consistency. So if I add more water to that, so it has the consistency of milk, it'll be a little lighter and a little more transparent. So think about that as you're mixing your consistencies, that you don't go too heavy. So that's milk. This I call coffee. It'll be a little bit more water and a little bit less paint. It's a lighter value. And herbal tea is very light. Very, very light, extra light. There we go. So that's what we're thinking about as we're mixing our paint, keeping it in this range and staying out of that until you just do a little bit of calligraphy with your brush. So let's get some color on there. And I would say I want to mix a little bit of peach. That is Naples yellow with some orange. Just want a little bit of that on there. And I've got my burnt sienna or permanent brown. If you have Lunar Earth That's kind of fun to have. But if you don't, you could just use permanent brown for the whole painting. And then what I do is just paint through the whole thing. Use the side of your brush so that you cover more area rather than the tip of your brush. If you have too much water on your paper, on your brush, this is wet on dry. If you have too much water, if you pick up the painting and it all runs down, that's too much water. Or if you end up with a lot of splotches, that can give you too much water. Now I could do the sky first, but I want to get right into painting the landscape. And I'll probably put the sky in last this time. I'm painting up and down here, partially because it helps me cover more area faster. And I'm just varying my color, so it's not all one exact same value. This back in here, I can connect that. We're going for one big connecting shape. There we go. This is all about simplifying, not getting too hung up in all the details. This is going to have to dry for a minute. So while it's drying, I'll get to show some of my sketchbooks. Let's see, so what's coming up? There, see how pretty that is? Already as it is, it's working because I have a good shape. I'm changing colors. I do have a few blossoms in there. That doesn't hurt anything. Those blossoms actually add character to the rocks. The foreground, I'm going to go ahead and put some foreground in. It's almost yellow, a little bit of yellow ochre right along this edge. And then it gets redder. So I'll put some of that down. My sagebrush is optional. You could choose to put it in or not, but it's going to be a little darker than this foreground. There. So I can just add it on top. There we go. Isn't that pretty? Just watercolor is so great because you can paint on location. You can capture the general idea of your scene and do it fairly quickly. All right, this has to dry for a minute, so I'll set it aside. And you're probably catching up with that. Let's set that right there. And let's grab a couple of my sketchbooks. I can show you a little bit as I go. Some things are big. This is a big Arches sketchbook where I painted pumpkins. We are almost done with pumpkins in this season. I have really gotten into fall fruits and vegetables. This is a big sketchbook. I used it when I taught a workshop in Carmel, and sometimes I just put in little vignettes of what I see. This one is actually a quick sketch painting that is in my quick sketch program. And that is a series of quick sketch lessons. It's not open yet. My next program that's opening is all about watercolors, where we have a monthly meeting, get together, paint along, and I also have videos, and there's a lot of interacting. My quick sketch actually has probably about 22 videos in it. That's from Carmel. And with all of these, I start simple, and then it gets more complex as I go. A quick study could just be really small in a sketchbook. Doesn't have to fill the whole page. How's this doing? Well, it's almost there. And so that was California. Carmel, I did a lot in Carmel. And let's see, what else do I have in here? Some are better than others, you know, like with everything else. This one was really fun in Carmel. I just started drawing and really got into all the details of this building. And I don't need to paint it all. You can use spot color in your quick sketch. My paintings are not all quick sketch. I do full paintings too, but this was about just capturing your travels quickly in your sketchbook. And I picked this Monument Valley because the shapes are strong and pretty easy. The next quick sketch demonstration I'm going to do is from Monet's Garden, which is a bit of a challenge, but it's fun too. What really got me into painting drawing with a pen and painting was my trips. Besides going to Europe, I did these trips to Alaska, and I don't like being on the fishing boat that much, but I would sit there and draw and write along the way. And I had so much fun just using my pen through the whole thing and capturing the stories of our days. Let's see. So just to give you an idea of what you can do with a pen. As soon as you pull the pencil out, you start getting picky about getting it just right. There we go. And this still needs a minute. So I'll show you a couple more from my quick sketch. I love this one. Get the big shape, outside shape, and then get involved in the center. I even drew my daughter-in-law out on the fishing boat. And this one was one of my favorites. I literally would draw as we're going out on the fishing boat, following the other fishermen. So spot color is fun. You could stop right here and have a beautiful painting. That's not getting dry enough for me, so I'm going to use my blow dryer for just a second. And okay, I see questions. Do you use photos for reference, or were you sketching all of these live? Most of my sketches are live when I'm traveling, but I also will do things while I'm in my studio. So this is, you know, not live. My Alaska sketchbook is all live. I didn't use any photos. I captured what I saw. I literally sat there. Well, the birds, I did take a photo for that one because, you know, they're moving. This, I actually got the shape of all this, and we saw whales a lot. So that one I did on my own. This one I took a photograph of the puffin. So it depends. The bear, I took a photograph of that one. We had crabs. Oh, we had crabs. I don't love them. Let's see, my sketchbook from Provence. Is this it? No, I'll have to find it. My Provence sketchbook is all live. Here's one from Park City. We did a Park City workshop, and I did that just sitting there, along with some of these others. If you do it while you're there, this is collage. I didn't use the ink with that one, and I use a pencil with that. So sometimes I use a pencil in my sketchbooks, and sometimes I use a pen. Love that. Yeah, this is live. That's live. that's a little quick sketch just to give you some ideas. It depends on the situation. If I can be there in person, I will do it, but we can't be there in person for everything. So we do them from our photos. And if you don't have your own photo, like when my kids go to Zion, I'm like, take pictures for me. I need more pictures of Zion. Okay, this is a milk consistency. Someone asked about peach, and that is my Naples yellow and orange for peach. Just a beautiful peach. The spiral notebook, I use Arches, Fabriano, Canson. Yeah, Canson. This one is an Alvaro sketchbook, but I don't like it. The paper is really rough. So it was hard to have a nice clean line. It's great for painting. A little challenging for drawing. So I just have to work a little harder to get what I want. I will buy a sketchbook in every art store I walk in. Now, for my shadows, I could just use the brown and do a simple value painting. What I like to do is have both warm and cool in my shadows, and lavender. See if I kind of blend those together. I like a touch of lavender. If you don't have lavender, maybe you have cobalt blue. My blue isn't green in it. So that could be my cool in my shadows. Another option that I use in some paintings is cobalt teal blue, which is really pretty. So I tend to pick something for my cool. So there's cobalt teal, cobalt blue, and lavender. You could pick whatever you have. You don't have to have exactly what I have. You could even use green in your shadows. I tend to use lavender, so I'm going to use lavender. That will be my cool color. The photograph will lie and go too dark. So I don't want to go as dark as the photograph. There's some lavender right there. So what I'm looking at is, well, the darker shape. I can always come in and go even darker. What I see is close to that. That's actually a dark shape. And like I say, I don't always get it just right, but if I'm close, I'm happy. I may have missed it by a shadow. Here's one. I'm using a milky consistency. In fact, this whole section is darker, and then there's a darker shadow within that. So why not? And down in here, I see a shadow. Almost everything I do is about light and shadow. That helps you see the form and develop your painting. There's some lavender. Now we're at 126. I'm so excited that you found your way in after we had some technical difficulties with Eventbrite. So thank you for coming. And I hope that you're enjoying just watching how I really simplify a scene. Now, if you look at the photo behind me, it's much more involved. You know, that is a bigger painting. This is a quick sketch is just a study. Let's get rid of me. And the main thing that I'm doing here is just showing you how to capture the form by adding those shadow shapes in. And I'm basically just using my permanent brown and my lavender. I could use some of that peach, maybe down into this section. There's those notches on the wall, or they almost look like books, the end of books. When I see big ones, I call them book clips. These are a little smaller. I guess if we were there, they would be pretty big. And so I'm just using more the point of my brush to capture the suggestion of those book clips. Now 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, the shadow will have changed. So that's how I don't worry too much about getting it exactly right on a study, as long as I get the general shape right. Another thing to think about is having your shadows connect rather than be a bunch of little stripes. Let's see, here's going back up in here, and I see this shadow coming down. You know, you get your drawing in and you wonder, where are those shapes? Well, that's what I saw when I started. Oh, there's shape around that. This was kind of a big shadow. And this is a really big shadow. Here's my lavender. I think, well, how do you know when to grab the lavender and when to grab the brown? I just vary it. It's not an exact science. I vary the values in the shadows. I vary the colors. But right now my shadows are basically the same general consistency, which would be coffee to milk. I am not going creamy up here, which is what you see in the photograph, because that almost makes your painting go dead right away. I see another shadow right there. If I can connect one shadow to another, that makes it even better. Let's see. I do check the chat, so you can put something in there if you have a question. But I like that general shape. It's working pretty well. I do see up at the top of this, you know, there's some character up there. Same with this. I can just use my brush to affect what's happening. There we go. And then often at the bottom of these things, towards the bottom, they tend to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of paint along that edge and pull it up. How's our time? Now, these tend to go across this way, so I'm just going to use my paintbrush to develop the hillside. There's some shadow, darker shadows, so I grab my permanent brown. At this point, I am not needing to draw in every detail. I can use my brush to suggest that. Yeah, I see rocks in there, but I just want texture rather than try to paint all the different rocks. So what I find when you do a quick sketch, you're really creating a study. You're trying to decide, learn about your subject, decide if you want to go further with it, maybe do a larger painting. You can experiment with your colors, decide if you love it or not, or maybe you're just having an experience that you're recording in your sketchbook, which actually my sketchbooks are more valuable to me than some of my paintings because it's my journal. I've never been good at writing in a journal, maybe a little bit here and there, but my paintings tell the stories. Picture's worth 1,000 words. You've heard that before. Here I'm just adding a little character with my brush. And in a way, I like this part better than what's going on up there. Let's see, I need to break up this just a little bit. It's just a big flat surface. And if you look at it up here, you don't see that much. So I can use my brush and try to capture some of that rock formation, break it up a little bit. Let's see what's over here. Like I said, you can always come back in and add some details. I like that. That's working out fine. This little area needs a bit of color on it. It was just too flat. Yeah, I like that. If you look at Maynard Dixon, he is an amazing artist. Here did a lot of paintings of the Southwest and here in Utah. His shapes are so simplified and incredibly beautiful and structural. It's really worth stopping and looking at him. Can micro pens bleed on 100% cotton paper? No, not if they're permanent. They should be fine. Oh, someone asked the Lunar Earth. I put it in that first wash. I had a little bit of it. Oh, I could add some of it, maybe right down in there. What it does is it granulates a little bit, adds some texture, and it's a different color. It's another color that you can add to your painting. There, I just add a little bit here. I could add a little bit on here. I'm using the side of my brush. And let's go back to this shape. It's way back there, so we don't see as much, but we do see a few shadows. And this lower part, maybe I'll use Lunar Earth there. Thank you for your questions. Yeah, coming back in here. So it's brighter at the top, and I see a few darks. So I'll get a bit milky consistency, and I see some shadow shapes way back there. Now it's so far away, we don't have to get too involved in this. We just want to suggest it. Yeah, that's nice. This is more important than this one. All right, the darker crevices. I'll put a few darker crevices and a few sagebrush. I've got 10 more minutes. I'm using the Dynasty Black Gold 311. This one's a 0 just because right now it hasn't been as abused as much as my 2. I could use my 2 or my 4. The 4 is what I use the most of. And it is available on thebrushguys.com. When they run out of them, just get on back order. If you look for a picture of me with a hat on, you can find it really easily through that, and you get an extra 5% discount on already good prices. Let's see, I can put a few sagebrush down in here. I've got a green Apatite Genuine and Naples Yellow, or maybe you have yellow ochre. It's not a bright green. It's toned down a little bit. So the yellow ochre does that. And I will just suggest a few of those sagebrush. Maybe there's a few clumps along here. There's one. There's a bunch of bushes back in here. I'm not trying to paint every little sagebrush. I just want to have a few suggestions in there. And then once you get it in, mess it up a little bit. Like I said, it's not about the sagebrush. It's really about the monument up here. Here's one. Yeah, I like that. Well, you're asking great questions. Let's see, I'll type in the brush guys. The brushguys.com. So you can go to that. And this is too wet, so I can't use it anymore. I need to get rid of it. And let's put a few dark crevices, and then I'll paint the sky. So the darkest darks, which are not big shadows, they tend to be little cracks, and that just gives you another layer of dimension. That will be your creamy mix. So that's when you go pretty dark. If you want to make it a little more of an umber brown, just add your green, and then it's not quite so rosy or warm. And so what I'll do is, generally I just look for where I may have a few cracks in the rocks and draw those in. I'm not going to do too much of it because I honestly don't see them at this distance. They're not quite so strong, but I see a few. If you put something in and it draws attention, just loosen it up a little bit. Where else? Maybe way down in here, that was pretty dark. We have a tendency to just want to go too far. And one of my favorite quotes is from Rex Brandt, and he said, "A painting is usually done before you think it is." And so rather than get carried away with some darker darks, just put a few on there. Just adds another layer of depth. This is a shadow down here that I kind of missed. Put that in. And like I said, this is far away, so we wouldn't necessarily see that many of the crevices. I think that could go a little darker. And what's happening over here? Maybe along this edge, I've got a crevice and then it comes down. And you can have fun with your paintbrush, adding little bits of detail. Oh, the Maynard Dixon. just saw some of his paintings in California. Oh, good. Somebody did a Google search and put it in there. Thank you, Brandy. Yeah, his work, whenever I see something strong and structural like this, I think of Maynard Dixon. He totally rocks it with the rocks. He is so good. His skies, his clouds, they'll have little people on their horses to give you the idea of proportion. Really amazing. This needs a few more darks down in here, but I'm almost done. And I love getting your comments. That's fun to see a new message. Does he paint in watercolor? I think he's painting in oils. I've only seen oil paintings, but you know, a lot of artists, there's probably some watercolors out there. A lot of oil painters would paint in watercolor on location and then like this, figure out their colors and get the feel of it and then go back to their studio and do an oil painting. But his idea of great shapes is absolutely fabulous. Okay, he's influenced a lot of Southwestern artists, and actually in anything. He's my artist of the day. So maybe in my next newsletter, I'll do a little thing about him. I took art history in college. That was my minor. And so, about every third newsletter, I've got something about an artist that has influenced me that I love. Okay, I like these shapes. I'm going to do a wet and wet watercolor sky. Those go pretty quick. Need to make sure that you use clean water and a clean brush. Look at that, silly me. I know what I did with that. Last night I painted neutral tint, and so I can't use that one. How about this one? There we go. Clean water, clean brush. And when you put your brush in, just stir it at the top. Don't go way down to the bottom. That's where all the sediment is, all the dirt. And I am close to an hour on time. That's pretty good. Because I did go through some of the basics, and some of you who have taken my workshops know I do that at the beginning of a lot of my classes. And when I teach a workshop, at the beginning, I go through that. In my programs, I have video series that get into a lot of my basics so that you can jump right in. And I like to have things for everyone. You can go to YouTube and get a lot of my free videos. And then if you want more, there's more. That we're all at different places in our creative journey, and it's good to push yourself a little bit. I push myself by teaching different subjects all the time, and I love teaching. There we go. This is almost all wet. Now you can see why I'm doing it last, so you don't have to watch it dry. You just see how I do it, and then I'll answer any questions that come up and show you a little bit more of my sketchbooks. There. The sky color is almost, it has a little bit of cyan in it. So, you know, I could use cobalt blue with phthalo blue green shade. Cobalt blue is what I use quite a bit of. Lavender, I've got lavender in the rocks. So some lavender in the sky could be pretty. I often use lavender. What happens if I mix my lavender in there? Ooh, I like that. It's all an experiment. And since it's wet and wet, I can cover quite a bit. We're just going to suggest some clouds by painting around the clouds. I actually like the clouds that are in there. Let's do that. All you do is paint around the shape of the cloud to create the cloud. And I feel like I'll have a few clouds over here too. This is a pretty big sky to cover. If you don't like your shape, maybe you want it to get a little bigger. Squeeze out some of the water in your brush, or you can soften it and pull it over. My sky is going to get lighter as I come down, and I think I have to get back over there, but I think I'm going to put a little peach down in the base of that sky so I get a little bit of glow. There we go. That's nice. Now over here, it's starting to dry, but I think I can still do it. Like I said, I kept my sky very simple. Just a little bit of wet and wet. And you can suggest those clouds. Where's my peach? I don't always see that. That's Naples yellow and orange. And giving my sky a little bit of reflective glow in the distance. There we go. I kept it fairly simple. And it's 1 minute after 3. So my goal is to get it done in an hour. And like I said, Rick's brand says your painting is usually finished before you think it is. So often when you're traveling, I got to stop fussing with that. When you're traveling, you don't have time to fuss with it. Everybody wants to leave. Maybe you had an hour, maybe you had 20 minutes to sit down and capture the scene. I've had some of my best quick sketches were done in about 20 minutes. Somebody asked, can you mask out cloud shapes with masking fluid? If you want those real strong cumulus clouds, you can, but I tend not to use masking fluid in my sky. Let's see, in my Tuscany program, I have a whole series on skies, and I touch on skies in my quick sketch, in all about watercolors. See, I'm pulling the tape off because that is the most satisfying part of the painting, is getting the tape off and seeing those clean edges. I use, what do I use? Dick Blick's white artist tape. It won't tear your painting. It actually can tear it if you're not careful about how you pull it off. So be gentle. And I've got one more little bit. There we go. I could have used more colors. I really wanted to keep this simple. There we go. And pull that over so we have a nice, clean finish. With Monument Valley, I'm so excited it turned out all right. Every painting is not a masterpiece. We have things that turn out, some things turn out better than others, but the masterpiece for you is the experience of doing it. Let go of oh, I've got to do a perfect painting. Let go of that and just have fun and experiment in your paintings, whether you're doing portraits. Oh, I have portraits too, portraits coming up, opening hopefully for Black Friday. Whatever your subject is, watercolor is a magical, wonderful medium to work with. You can, here's a quick sketch that I just did the other day, fun for Thanksgiving. I'm looking at my pile from this week. I'm doing a quick sketch with the University of Utah, and this was one of the scenes from Tuscany. Just done at the very end of my session. Thank you so much for being here. I'll sit here for a minute and show you a few more things, and you can go when you need to. This was a quick sketch, but I didn't use the pen. I used a pencil, and I'm trying to finish the video up for that so I can share it. There was a fun quick sketch the other night of sunflowers. I approached this the same way, big, simple outer shapes, and then get involved with some of the petals. You don't need to have every single detail to make it work. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, Lois. I'm seeing nice messages. Oh, from Portugal. Maria, thank you. Lots of you reached out to say thank you. I appreciate you for taking time to join us today. And I understand if you have to go. We made it over 100 people. Yay. Let's see, what else can I show you? And if you need to leave, it's okay. Oh, thanks from Vancouver. I love it. Thanks, Marlene. North Carolina. Oh, you're from all over. I love seeing where you're from. In South Carolina. Thank you so much. It just gives you an idea how I teach and some of my subjects that I teach. Let's see. This, I'll do a little more sharing and then I'll stop the video. Thanks for Massachusetts and Texas. This is actually a quick sketch with a pen that bleeds. And sometimes you want that. And so I painted it on Daniel Smith watercolor ground. Here's Spain. I'm going to Spain again next year. And this was actually from the patio right in front of our hotel. So we're right on the coast. And I just sat there and quick sketched that. And then we went up there and had lunch. So I wrote about my lunch in my sketchbook. Upstate New York, Alexandria. You guys are awesome. Do I have any others? This is a journal painting from Spain. And that's the view the other direction of where we stay. Oh, this is a fun quick sketch of fruit and vegetable market there in Spain. So it doesn't have to be major. It can just be fun studies. Here's one that I did with, I got the basic general shapes and then I used paper and glued it in and did some stenciling. And I've also painted that as a big painting. So you'll see, if you're around me enough, you'll start to see what happens from my quick sketch to my bigger paintings. And I hope you had fun. And you'll get my newsletter where you can see more about what I'm doing. But thank you for joining me. If you're in one of my programs, please share your monument painting in the Facebook group that you're in. Oh, thanks from Tucson. I'm seeing your notes. Rhode Island. Thank you so much for being really positive. You know, we all need to encourage each other, and your encouragement makes me want to do more of these. So I really enjoy doing this for you, for each of you. Oh, Smuggler's Cove, BC. So get out there and paint your journeys, Find photographs that you've taken that you've always wanted to paint. Instead of thinking I've got to do a masterpiece, just sit there and try a simple, quick sketch. And you'll just enrich your day, enrich your life by doing that for yourself. Thanks from Issaquah. Oh yeah, I lived up there in Sammamish. And Bend, where I used to live, Smuggler's Cove. You're awesome. Thank you, everyone. A perfect way to remember. Yes, Lorraine, that is a great way to put it. Here, I'll add me up there. So I appreciate you all. This is so fun to see your notes. Carolyn, Carly, I see your name in there. Thanks for coming. We were in Santa Barbara recently, and I think I showed you something from Santa Barbara. That was really fun. Thank you, Constance. And I hope I get to paint with you all again soon. We have much to look forward to through the end of this year and going into next year. I'm really excited about it. Thank you from New Mexico. Catherine. How are we doing? 81. Okay, you're starting to drift off. I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye. I'll wait just a minute. If you have any more questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. And thank you for spending some time with me today. That was fun. Now I'm going to get ready for my beginners tonight with the University of Utah. I've got some new students in there. They're not all beginners, but they're building their confidence, and we are going to paint in Park City theme tonight. That'll be fun. Thanks, Rebecca. You stayed. Oh, Rebecca, thank you. Rebecca works with me. She's like on the other side of the world. and it's I don't know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning for her. So thank you, Rebecca. She does so much work to make all my platforms and programs work. I could not do this without Rebecca. So thank you. It all worked. The people made it in, and we painted together and had a good time. All right, I'm going to say goodbye. Happy Thanksgiving. And oh, I see in the Q&A. What if you don't have Lunar Earth? Yeah, just use burnt sienna. It's a good one. Or add buff titanium to your color. My sketch pen is not water soluble. Somebody put some questions in the Q&A instead of the chat, and I didn't even think to look there. I use permanent markers. Color peach is Naples yellow and orange. And Lunar Earth, we did get that question. Thank you for those. Those are great. All right, take care, everybody, and I look forward to seeing your paintings in our Facebook groups. You can email it to me at cindybriggsart@gmail.com if you want to just share what you did, or share it with your friends. Just say, I had fun with this paint along. What do you think? You know, people love to support you online. Yeah, or share it with your family. We always need positive feedback, and I'm here to give that to you. So I don't want to sound like a sales pitch. My favorite quote today from Danny Kaye, and I'll close with this, is life, and this is on my wall, life is a great big canvas. Throw all the paint on it you can. Don't you love that one? All right, take care. Thanks for joining me.